It's football season. It's game week. What is today? Thursday? Wow, college football season starts in 2 days. Kickoff week 0 coming up Saturday. That means the Saturday morning live show will be returning this Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Make sure you check it out. We have a great time on these Saturday morning 9 o'clock shows during the season, and it all starts this Saturday at 9 a.m. with kickoff of week 0. Notre Dame and Navy, Vanderbilt and Hawaii, Southern Cal and San Jose State. Is that who it is? 5 or 6 games on. Nothing earth-shattering, but it's college football. And I'm going to be watching it. The first Patreon stream of the year will be this Saturday. Make sure you're getting signed up on the Patreon. I know a lot of people join the Patreon during the season and then cancel it in the off-season. If you're one of those people, make sure you get signed up this week. The first Patreon stream will be Saturday. We'll be streaming a game. Anyway, with the season getting ready to kick off, though, I wanted to make this video today. Maybe not the 5 dumbest, but 5 dumb things that I hear fans bragging about when it comes to college football. Now, you'll notice a theme as we start to go through some of these here. Usually when you hear fans talking about the things I have on this list, or bragging about the things I have on this list, it's because they're not good now, or they lost a game now, or they're losing an argument with somebody in the comment section, whatever. But let's just get right into it. 5 of the dumbest things I hear fans bragging about. Some of this is team specific, some of it's not. We're going to start with a team specific one. Nebraska, I hate to do this to you. Really, Nebraska falls into a couple of these things here, but let's start with this one. Your home sellout streak. Now look, I do think it's impressive to sell out home games, sell out games, and to have a home sellout streak, I guess it is kind of impressive. So it's not totally ridiculous, I guess, but here's the problem. And I want people's opinions on this in the comment section, because I'll be the first to admit, I've never been to a Nebraska game, okay? I've watched Nebraska games on TV. I've seen aerial footage of Nebraska home games. The rumor is, when it comes to this Nebraska home sellout streak, is that Nebraska has really nothing going for them in the world of college football for the better part of the last 25 years, really. You got to go back to the late 90s, early 2000s to find any relevant Nebraska teams at all. Now, they were winning 8 or 9 games 10 or 15 years ago, but that wasn't good enough for them. They fired that coach and have since went on to a string of losers at the head coach position who can't even get Nebraska to a bowl game. So you got to go back a long time. But so you're starting to run out of things to talk about, I guess. So you constantly hear from Nebraska fans about this home sellout streak. I kind of hear South Carolina fans. Now, they don't talk about sellouts necessarily when it comes to South Carolina, but just like, oh, but it's still an amazing, we still show up, amazing home environment, we're terrible. Look, I think that's great. You can't just show up when your team is good. So I'm not suggesting that, like, Nebraska fans shouldn't be going to games. But specifically about this home sellout streak, and y'all let me know in the comment section if y'all have heard this before, or if it's true, or if you think it's true. But the rumor is that the Nebraska fans just are out of things to brag about when it comes to actual football because they've been irrelevant for so long, that in order to just have something to hold over people's heads, that what they're doing is, the week of every home game, if it's not sold out, boosters or fans or rich people or whatever, whoever it is going and buying up all the home tickets. And they're giving them away, or in a lot of cases, they're just putting them in their pocket and they're not being used. So that gets back to what I was saying about the aerial shots of the Nebraska home games. Are those games really sold out? Technically, yes. A sellout, technically, is when every ticket is sold. So technically, they're selling out the games. But is 100% of those seats filled in every home game? And look, you're going to say, well, look, every team that's ever played, somebody's got a ticket and something comes up, car breaks down, family member dies, something, they can't go to the game. That's not what I'm saying is happening at Nebraska. The accusation, at least, against Nebraska is that, there's thousands of unsold tickets for home games, and boosters are just buying the tickets at face value, which if you've ever bought a ticket for a college football game at face value, they're not very expensive. The expensive prices you hear talked about in regards to college football games, the high prices you hear all the time are always secondhand prices. Big games that are sold out, so you got no choice but to get your ticket off a StubHub or one of these secondhand places, and everything gets jacked up. The face value for college football home games is not very high. So the accusation is that Nebraska fans and boosters, the week of every game, there's thousands of unsold tickets. They're going and just buying up all these tickets from the ticket office just so they can keep their home sellout streak alive, so they'll have something to brag about in internet comment sections. Even if the sellout streak is legit, again, if you're going to brag about home sellout streaks, to me it's a little dumb unless you've got something maybe to go with it. Like, I don't know, some wins, and Nebraska doesn't. And again, I've got nothing against Nebraska or Nebraska fans. There's some great Nebraska fans on this channel that have been for years. But this is a little bit ridiculous, especially if the accusations are true, that the fans are just buying up extra home game tickets the week of the game every year just so they can brag in internet comment sections that they have the longest home winning streak in all of college football. I think that's kind of dumb. Let's move on to the next one, and unfortunately this one involves Nebraska too. But it's the age-old blue blood debate, which the majority of college football fans just don't give a shit. That's reality about the whole blue blood designation. There are Georgia fans that will fight you tooth and nail arguing that Georgia is a blue blood. I don't give a shit. I don't personally think Georgia's a blue blood. I think they're borderline. I mean, they're top 10 all-time in wins. They've got, how many national titles do they claim now? 4. They've got 6 or 7, 2 or 3 of them they don't claim. So they've got, officially 4, I guess, national titles, top 10 in wins. They're borderline to what I would consider to be a blue blood program, although I don't consider them a blue blood program. But who do you hear mostly yapping about this? Teams that aren't that good today. That's who. Nebraska again. Notre Dame. Southern Cal up until last year. You'd hear Southern Cal fans all the time. When they were busy being terrible since for 15 years. They had that run under Pete Carroll, and they've pretty much been terrible since then. So what did they revert to? Well, we've been kind of good for a really long time. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. When you're arguing that, we're a blue blood. We've been kind of good for most decades over the last 80 years. Well, first of all, whenever anybody hears you making that argument, they know right away whatever team you're a fan of is not any good. You don't even have to tell them the team. You can just say, my team's a blue blood. We've been good in every era of college football. That tells me right away your team's not good now. I know this to be a fact because when Oklahoma was busy making the college football playoffs every single year, I never one time heard an Oklahoma fan in a comment section or in a call-in show or anywhere else talking about how they were a blue blood program. Alabama, who's won, 6 national titles since 2009? So in the last 15 years or whatever it is, they've won 6 national titles. I don't ever have an Alabama fan call me up and say and argue that, well, Alabama's a blue blood. We were good in the 40s, we were good in the 50s. Never. It's never happened. And Alabama fans are some of the dumbest people on the internet. But give them credit here. Now, why? Because they're good now. They don't have to talk about the fact that they were good in the 40s, in the 60s, in the 80s. We know who was good back then. Everyone knows. Notre Dame is another one. Notre Dame hasn't won a national title in 35 years? Hasn't even won a major postseason game in 30 years? Completely irrelevant program. Notre Dame is the literal definition of a black and white program. The literal definition of a pre-integration program. After integration in the South, that was pretty much it for Notre Dame. They had one last hoorah in the late 80s, and that's been it for them. They're a decent program, I haven't gone back and added it up, but they probably average, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 wins over the last 30, 35 years, but no national titles. So what do they talk about? Newt fucking Rockne, Rudy, all these people from the black and white days when, they used to beat up on a bunch of service academies every year to win national titles. They don't win anything now. They don't win anything today. So they're in every internet comment section and every internet call-in show and everywhere else telling you how good they used to be. If someone has to try to convince you how relevant they are, they're not that relevant. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. The whole thing about bragging about how good you used to be, you just don't hear teams that are good today bragging about that. You just don't. That now, I can tell you right, who's that going to make mad? The teams that Notre Dame makes Notre Dame fans mad, makes Southern Cal fans mad, makes Nebraska fans mad, whoever. Whoever these teams are that were winning a bunch of national titles in black and white TV, pre-integration, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And look, I'm not saying those national titles don't count. Of course they count. Any national title you won counts, regardless of the year it was won in. I'm not saying it didn't count. But to be bragging about that today, specifically because you're not any good today, that's kind of dumb to me. It's kind of dumb. And again, I talk to a ton of college football fans year-round from coast to coast, and the only ones I ever hear bringing up the blue blood argument are fans of teams who aren't any good today. It's just dumb. You know what else is dumb? Hey, Ohio State, how y'all doing? Ohio State, man, you okay, buddy? Y'all hanging in there? Ready for the start of another season? Are all your players healthy? More importantly, are all your starters healthy? We know you can't win a game if a starter gets hurt, but we're not going down that road in this video. What's with bragging about losses? I don't understand it. Now, let me be clear here. If you're some terrible team or terrible program, if you're a group of 5 team or God forbid an FCS, and you go on the road and you play one of these big boys of college football, and it's a close game in the fourth quarter, maybe even you even maybe have a lead over one of these big-time college programs in the fourth quarter, and the big boy comes back, scores at the end, and beats you in the last minute, and you lose by 3. That's okay. That's fine. That's okay. That's fine. Georgia Southern almost beating Georgia 10 years ago or whenever it was. That's one thing, okay? But if you yourself are a big-time college football program, or at least you're running around the internet pretending that your team is a big-time college football program, and you lose a game, and you brag about it, that's dumb. That's dumb. Listen to me, Ohio State man. You lost to Georgia. That's the end of the story. There is no but. There is no, well, we only lost by, you lost. We're talking about a college football playoff game. Never mind the fact that these are just 2 big-time college football programs. What is Ohio State man doing running around bragging about games they barely lost? Y'all aren't supposed to be doing that. Not if you're half the team or half the program that you want the rest of the internet to believe that you are. If you're, we all know Ohio State fans run around acting like they're college football royalty and that Ohio State is college football royalty. Royalty doesn't brag about losing. What's wrong with you? You know what this is like? And here you go. We're going to piss off a large segment of the Uncle Lou viewing public on this one, but this is exactly what it's like. It's like these idiots who still run around with the Confederate flag and shit. They fucking lost, man. They're winless all time, for Christ. What are you doing? This is the United States of America. We do not celebrate losing in this country. Get rid of the Confederate flags, and if you're Ohio State, man, stop bragging about how you almost beat Georgia. And this goes for any other team, too. And there's a list a mile long every single year of fans running around talking about how they almost beat somebody. Take Missouri. Missouri last year, right? Missouri was a 500 team. Not any good. Terrible, actually. They almost beat Georgia. Okay, I can understand that. I can understand the Missouri man running around talking about how they only lost to Georgia by 4. That makes sense to me. I don't understand Ohio State man running around bragging about how they only lost to Georgia by 1, yet they've been doing it all offseason. We almost beat you. We almost beat you, woo. We got your pom-poms out, cracking a suck nut. It's weird. It's weird. Stop doing it. God almighty. It's dumb. It's dumb. And again, I'm singling out Ohio State because that's the obvious one for the offseason that's ending now. But a lot of teams are guilty of doing that. You know what else is dumb? Let me ask you something. In college football, when a list comes out that ranks teams in order, what do we call that list? What do we call it? The top 25. That's what we call it, because that's what it is. The AP puts out a top 25. The coaches poll puts out a top 25. The playoff poll puts out a top 25. When we had BCS computer rankings back in the day, it was the BCS top 25. When every single idiot with a camera and a YouTube channel, like yours truly, puts out a list of teams, it's the top 25. No one puts out a top 28. There's no such thing. You're either in the top 20. There's two groups. There's the top 25 and there's everyone else. Florida man. What in the absolute fuck are you doing running around the internet telling people you're ranked 28th in, I think it's the coaches poll? There is no 28th ranking, dummy. These idiot Florida fans have went to the others receiving votes category, added them up, and are running around pretending they're ranked 28th. There's no such thing as a 28th ranking. Again, a proud team and a proud fan base. At least they used to be. Now running around trying to convince people they're ranked 28th. If someone walked up to me in the grocery store and asked me who the 29th or 26th or 27th ranked team in the country is, I'd look at them like they were lost. Huh? What? You know, we made fun of Tennessee. We've been making fun. Let this sink in. We've been making fun of Tennessee fans for almost a year now because they were ranked number one for 1 week in November. Remember that old deal? When the first playoff poll came out, had Tennessee ranked number one, Georgia, I think 2 or 3, whatever it was. And the very next Saturday, Tennessee had to play Georgia. Georgia humiliated them. We've been making fun of Tennessee fans for going around telling people they were ranked number one for a week. Florida fans have been, for 3 weeks now, or whatever it's been since the coaches poll come out, running around telling people they're ranked 28th. And I'm singling Florida out because that's what's relevant now. But this goes to anybody. If you're running around bragging about being ranked anything lower than 25, what are you doing? There's the top 25 and there's everybody else in college football. When's the new top 25 coming out? When's the coaches? When's the top? Lou, when you doing your top 25 video? When's the coaches preseason top 25 getting released? When's the AP top 25? No one runs around going, oh my God, hey Lou, when you putting out your top 28? When's the AP putting out their top 30? They're never top 25, dummies. What else? Oh, lots of teams guilty here. Some that we've already talked about. Florida and Ohio State come to mind. Teams that brag about their record, or teams that brag about their record in general, or their record against a specific team during some random time period in the past. This might be the worst. This might be the dumbest one on the list. Okay? Here's the reality of college football when it comes to all-time series between two teams. You're either winning the all-time series or you're losing the all-time series. You're either better than that team today or you're worse than that team today. Okay? That's it. I don't want to hear anything else in between. Nothing. Georgia is beating Florida in the all-time series. Michigan is beating Ohio State in the all-time series. Georgia is better than Florida now. Michigan is better than Ohio State now. Georgia's beat Florida 2 years in a row, 21 and 22. They beat them 5 of the last 6 or whatever it is, but they beat them 2 in a row. So right now, today, right now, better than Florida, and they lead Florida in the all-time series. Michigan leads Ohio State in the all-time series, and they beat Ohio State the last 2 times they played. Michigan's better all time. Michigan's better now. Those are the two that matter. If Ohio State beats Michigan this season, if Florida beats Georgia this season, then Florida and Ohio State, man, can run around and say, we're better than Georgia now. We're better than Michigan now. They won't be able to say all time, but they can say now. But these Florida fans who want to run around on the internet acting like football was invented in 1990, it's the weirdest thing. I've seen hundreds, thousands of Florida posts, tweets, comments, call-ins to my show, whatever, from Florida fans saying, well, and they wiping the drool off their chest. But from 1990 to 2008, we were 15-2 against Georgia. Okay, and what? For a 17-year period, out of the 100 that we've been playing, you have a winning record against Georgia during that random 17-year period? What would he fucking do? Or then they'll say, well, since I was born, the record is this. Nobody gives a fuck when you were born. Football wasn't invented the year you were born. Georgia and Florida didn't start playing the year you were born. Same thing with Michigan and Ohio State. Ohio State fans will call me to explain to me what their record is against Michigan from 2000 to 2020. Who cares? Or even worse, the Ohio State fan wants to go back. Ohio State fan wants to cut off like the first 30 years of the series. Well, you know, Lou, if you cut off the first 30 years of the series between Michigan and Ohio State's actually leading the all-time series. Oh, so what you're telling me is they're not leading the all-time series. Okay, great, got it. I'll make a mental note. Thank you, idiot. You're either better than a team now, or you're better than them all time in terms of head-to-head. Stop with this cherry picking random points in time. Well, you know, I was born in 1987. So from 1987 to now, Ohio State actually has a winning record. Good, great. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. I've got a great-great-grandnephew, niece, cousin who was born in 2020. They've never seen Michigan lose to Ohio State in their entire life. Oh, mind blown. Because they didn't play in 2020. Michigan beat them in 21 and 22. Wow. What does that mean? It means absolutely nothing. Nothing. Michigan owns Ohio State all time. Michigan owns Ohio State now. Georgia owns Florida all time. Georgia owns Florida now. That's all that matters. Stop cherry picking these random points in time in the past. This isn't Back to the Future where you're hopping in your Chevette and entering in some random date that you chose in your head. Man, Florida fans sitting around going, man, I sure do wish I had a time machine with a flux capacitor so I could go back to 1990 and relive the 17 years out of our program's 100-year history where we're actually any good. I bet you do wish you could do that, but you can't. We live in today, and today, Georgia is better than Florida. All time, Georgia is better than Florida, and Uncle Lou is better than the Florida fan. Have a good morning.